morning. It's Joe West from the West Barn with
Mike Shimshack.
And today our guest is Rick Barker. Rick, been in Nashville for a long time, music industry guru, music industry blueprint.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go the guru part, but...
well, there's people, it's like, okay, so tell us.
Well, no, I got here in 2008. Decided I was leaving Santa Barbara. Wanted my kids raised in the South where manners weren't an option. Wanted them raised in the church, and I had just left Taylor at that point. My last year with her was
Taylor
2007.
Swift, who you originally managed when she was becoming.
Yeah, I was blessed.
Scott
Borchetta pulled me out of radio. Radio was my background for 15 years. And then right around 2003, 2004, I created the first ever radio tour where artists actually got paid. And Sugarland, Little Big Town, notice Jimmy Wayne.
That's wild. I didn't know they got paid.
They did when I had them.
Wow, the radio stations would pay you to
So how did you do that?
On a radio
Well, what I did is in California, it was really hard to get current artists out there unless they were on a major tour because the cost associated with that. So I started asking questions when I got reporting status at the time with Gavin and then Country Air Check. Lon Helton took a chance. I ran a little country radio station just outside of Santa Barbara.
Reporting status is, for those who don't know,
where when we play our music, we report it.
Right.
So if
the song is number one, it's because you're reporting it being played. Only certain stations report.
Correct. So there's the BDS stations, which there's a little monitor in the sky, which tracks it. And then some of the smaller stations like mine, we would write in
journaling
our reports, right?
Diaries.
So at that point, all of a sudden, the labels started becoming interested because that's all about the charts. It's like, hey, here's this indicator station. I started playing new music. Lon Helton looked at he said, send me your list. And I sent him the list. And he's like, wow, he says, you don't really follow the charts, do you? I'm like, well, what are the charts and why should I be following them? And he's like, okay, this is interesting. And I said, well, I know my audience, so I'm going to play whatever music I feel works best for them. And he gave me a shot. And then because I didn't stick to the charts, a lot of the record companies started reaching out going, hey, check out this song. And I'm from where Marv Green and I are from the same hometown. So, any song that Marv was on always got played or his mother would come kick my butt. So that was by default. But then we did an event called Nashville Nights where I really got to get to know the songwriters. So it was great because one year at this little event, so it's about a 600-person theater, and we'd make $100,000 off this little event. So Marv would bring out his buddies. So one year we had Tim Nichols, when Live Like You Were Dying. We had Leslie Satcher. We had Jeff Stevens. I really got a chance to kind of get to know the songwriters. And then as the artists started coming through town, I would ask questions. I'm like, why don't we ever get to see them play? Because I came from the rock space where the bands, you couldn't keep them off the stage. They're like, well, they only have one song or they don't have enough material. And I'm like, you signed a band to a label because of one song? These guys can't play? They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's not a real good business model. So I just started asking these questions, and they said, well, we can't put them on stage because no one knows who they are. I said, well, wait a minute. If I play their song and I tell my audience how great they are, they're going to want to show up. They're like, yeah, but radio stations won't play new music. I'm like, I'll find some radio stations that'll play some music. I said, what if I could get the artist paid? There's no way. We pay radio. I'm like, but you're talking to the wrong guy. You're asking the program director. You need to talk to the sales manager. So I went to all these stations in California, and I said, hey, if I could get us an artist that's at the bottom of the chart in that 40 or 30 range, could you come up with $1,500, 3 hotel rooms and dinner? They're like, absolutely. So the next thing you know, I've got San Jose, Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, KUZZ in Bakersfield. So we would run the artist up the 101, cut across, come down the 5. When they're done, drop them off at the airport. And all the labels were like, we love this. So they flew me out to Nashville.
But are these for free concerts for listeners?
Yeah, they're listener appreciation shows.
But in the meanwhile, they got to come and pitch their songs and play to do their radio tour.
Yeah, so they do the radio tour, but then they get a chance to build a relationship with the fan.
Oh, and one more thing. People may not know this. country artists sign a record deal, and then they go out on a 6 to 9 week radio tour where they don't show up. Maybe they show up on air, maybe they're playing in a back conference room, but the goal is that they send them out and they visit 3 to 4 stations a day with a radio rep from the label, and you as a new artist get to say, hey, play my song on your radio station. They play it for you, and they buy donuts for everybody. That's a radio tour usually, and sometimes it's on the air.
And sometimes it lasts a long time, because what happens is you'll split it up. All the United States is broken into regions. So I was the West Coast regional for Big Machine Records. I had, I think, 9 states and 71 radio stations that I had to build relationships with. So you go in and you try to build that relationship, because ultimately, if there's 2 songs and they're kind of weighing, okay, I only have room to add 1 or 2 songs to rotation, usually the better relationship wins. So that's what you're out doing, is trying to build those
But in the
relationships.
meanwhile, you decided, let's do this as a value add for the radio audience, and they'll do these shows in the radio stations. It makes sense for the artist. That was not being done before you.
Well, it wasn't. It was kind of being done, but the artists weren't getting paid. And my whole concept was, if you're going to invest this kind of money in an artist, ultimately you're going to need fans, because the guy at the radio station's not buying the records. They're being given the records. I'm like, so why don't we put them in front of an audience and let them build these relationships? So all of a sudden I get flown out to Nashville, and they put me up at the Lowe's, and first time I ever had Ruth Chris, and I meet with all the heads of the radio departments at these labels, and they love the idea. So I go back to Santa Barbara. It's like crickets. No one's offering anything. This was like in April. So I call, I said, you guys told me how great this idea was. They're like, well, here's the problem, is it's the summertime, so all of our major artists are on tour, so the record reps have to go out and run the meet and greets and build those relationships. I'm like, okay, so wait a second. You sign this kid to a deal, and now they have to sit around and wait. They're like, yeah, we just don't have enough people. I'm like, then send them to me. I'll be the rep. They're like, you'd be willing to do that? I'm like, I built all these relationships. So I get a call from Royce Risser. He was at MCA at the time, and he said, listen, he said, we have this kid. He's got this song that's doing well in the South and the Midwest. If California comes on board, we know we've got something. I said, great. They said his name's Josh Turner, and the song's called Long Black Train. And I was already playing it. I'm like, even I can't mess up the Long Black Train. So I bring out Josh, and all he does, he has nothing to sell. He has no merchandise. So we just take the 8x10s that the record company has. We sell them for $5. So he made $1,500 a show. He made like $7,500 in guarantees. Went back to Nashville. Said, there's this kid. He didn't call me a kid. He said, there's this guy. He's got this radio station, and they'll cook you tri-tip, and they'll take you wine tasting. And the whole town came together to just make it this exciting event. And then the next thing you know, Scott Borchetta heads over to MCA, and I had done some work with him with Jimmy Wayne when he was at DreamWorks and stuff, and Scotty Emmerich. Took Scotty Emmerich out. This is the funniest thing, is trying to convince a millionaire at the time to sell merchandise. And Scotty's like, I don't have merchandise. And I'm like, Scott goes, he doesn't have a record yet. I said, what about those promo CDs? He goes, I said, what do you guys do when you're done with them? He's like, we throw them away. I was like, no, if he'll sign them, we can sell them for $5. He's like, what? So they shipped me out these boxes of all these promo CDs they were going to trash. And Scotty's making money. And everybody starts making money. And then I end up with Sugarland and Little Big Town. And when Jamie O'Neill had her baby, they wanted to work her back in. So that's kind of how I got on everyone's
we get raised
radar.
in this acceptance of like, hey, we're just going to be going to debt for everything we do.
There's no reason for it.
We need one guy like you on the team that ends up saying, hey, we could sell these, or, let's take a negative scenario and turn it cash positive.
Well, and what happens now is people want to buy experiences. They don't have to pay to hear our music ever again. That's the sucky part of this business. It's like, hey, I want you to go into business and you have to give all your stuff away. Wait a minute. But if we do decide to pay you, we're going to pay you percentages of pennies. Okay, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. I'm like, here's all this experience that people will purchase. They'll purchase to get behind the velvet rope. They'll purchase the ability to only have 100 tickets sold for a higher cost situation. I'm like, if this is a business, sometimes we need to treat it like a business.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you ended up, your tenure with Taylor Swift, like you were her manager whenever she got the deal in.
She had already had the deal. She was already at Big Machine. What happened is what a lot of people don't realize is from 12 years old to 16 years old, all she did was focus on her songs. She wasn't out trying to win contest or tour or, do karaoke contest or anything. She was focused on her music. Every day she was writing songs. So when she got her deal at Big Machine, Scott sent her to me and had me take her out on this tour to really learn how to play in front of an audience, to really learn how to build these relationships. He's like, teach her the business. And what's interesting about that is that earlier in my life as a radio guy, you don't make anything money-wise. So I was, the program director, morning guy, and then I coached soccer in the afternoon. I coached girls high school soccer for 2 years. Now I tell everyone that was God preparing me for Taylor because I speak teenage female. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but it worked with her. So when she came out, she wanted to learn. I wanted to teach. We spent 30 days together. And then her family would call every night, wanting me to help them solve the world's problems. And I go to Scott and I said, you've got to get him a manager, man. They're wearing me out. This time I had a brand new baby boy. My daughter was very young. So they went and they interviewed, and a lot of people said no because they didn't want to have a teenager. It was a very uncharted territory at the time. And then her dad approached and said, hey, what would you say if I told you Taylor wanted you to be her manager? I said, I'd say no. He goes, wait, that's not what we were expecting to hear. I said, I'm not qualified. He goes, no, you trust her. She believes in you. He said, more importantly, he says, you're not afraid to ask for help. He said, a lot of people look at not knowing as a weakness. Not knowing and not getting the answers today, especially with the internet, that's what the weakness is. So, yeah, they asked me to be your manager, and for the first 6 months, I was still the West Coast Regional at Big Machine, so I ran a region from a tour bus while we were out on tour with George Strait because I had to learn how to become a manager. I had never been one before, so learned everything with her, and then was with her till 2008, and then I just realized this wasn't for me. If I wanted to stay married and if I wanted to become a millionaire, I stay, but at what expense? Is it going out in alimony, child support? The kid's going to know their dad, and I grew up poor, so I never made decisions based on money because we never had it. So I chose to move on, and then I ended up consulting Sony and a couple other cool things and started creating really cool opportunities.
I had heard of the music business blueprint. I had heard about it, right? And I'd heard your name through the years. It says, was that developed? Is that sort of like what you learned in the transition from radio owner to regional rep to marketing guy to manager for Taylor?
What it was, the reason that I even started the music industry blueprint was I realized that I felt responsible because all these dads were showing up in Nashville with their daughters in sundresses and cowboy boots thinking that was the magic ticket. And there were a lot of really good people that were no longer working at the major labels. So they had started their own businesses to where, hey, any person who came to town that had money, they would take them on a radio tour. They could go in the studio. They could get everyone who played on Taylor's record or Carrie Underwood's record to play on theirs. They could go hire Roman to do their music video. So these teenagers and these families were spending multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to chase these songs. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I remember being out at the ACMs, and I was talking with a couple of the heads of the labels, and I'm like, I wish they would find me before they went through this. And a statement that was said changed everything for me. They said there's no chamber of commerce for the music business. Usually when you start a business and you get to town, you go to the chamber of commerce. Right now, it's the wild, wild west. It's whoever found them first. So all of a sudden, producers were becoming artist development guys, and all of a sudden, the back end of record royalties were no longer there. So there was all this money being charged on the front end, and everyone's idea was, we'll record it and we'll take it to radio. And I'm like, the labels with the relationships can't even get all of their songs played. Where are you going to fit in to this picture? So I started typing on Google, how to get a record deal, how to get a publishing deal, how to find a manager. And everything that I found was 10, 15 years old or old interviews with Clive Davis. And no one was teaching anyone the business in the digital age. So I started investing in digital marketing courses, and I started learning from these digital marketers. I'm like, how is it that these real estate agents can do these white papers online, build a massive email list, make a ton of money, when in Nashville, we create more content on a daily basis? How do we start getting this stuff out into the world? So I started searching music industry. Blueprint was a very popular name. I looked, it was available. I picked it up, and that's when I launched the music industry Blueprint. But what was interesting is I'm like, here's what I need. I need to figure out a way for people to get access to the Joes and the Mikes of the world. They can't get to an A&R guy. They can't get to a lot of these people. I have those relationships. So I did the first ever, it was called the Music Industry Blueprint Live. And I went out and I got Jim Catino and Clay Myers at the time, and Carl Brown, my entertainment attorney, Renee Grant Williams, Jay Franks when he was at CMT. I said, I'll pay you $500 for an hour of your time. I said, but I get to record it. And they're like, you're going to pay us for our time? Like, everybody just wants to take us to lunch and pick our brain. I'm like, if I take an hour, it's going to be 2 hours because you're going to have to travel. That's time you could have spent with your family. So I started paying people to speak at my events. So they all started showing up. So I'm getting really big names from big companies, and I'm recording it, doing it in front of a live audience where I get to ask the questions that these people should be asking. Because what they want is they want you to hear their song and then get super excited, say, you're the best thing I've ever heard. I'm going to walk you into every label and we're going to get a record deal. That's not the way most businesses work. There's work that needs to be done. So I let them hear the work that these people said needed to be done, and then I taught them how to do that work.
Tell me, like, okay, what is the mission statement for Music Industry Blueprint?
I help people navigate the music business. I help creatives get their product out into the world. My goal is to affect millions of people with songs I didn't write by teaching creatives how to find the proper audience for that.
And do these people, they hire you on retainer?
No, they pay. It's a course or a program. Right. They're paying $150,000 to get music business degrees on theory. Why couldn't they pay me to get music business education on reality? Right. And how we're dealing with this. So the thing that I had to convince people, and I hate even using the word convince, was that if you're coming to me, you're wanting my knowledge and my experience. I didn't get that for free. There were many hours away from my family. There were many weeks of birthday. There's money that I'm spending to learn how to do this. Why should I give it to you? Because the value of free is just that. It's free. I said those who pay attention. So if you're going to spend time with me, you're getting education. It's going to cost you money. It's no different than if you're going to start a business, and it is the music business, you're going to have to pay to understand the business that you're running. But why don't we make it affordable? Because when you do it like I do digitally, I say the same thing, whether one person's listening or 1,000. So I'm able to offer courses for $97, or, I do a weekly group coaching. It's $2,000 for a year, but people get to come on every week and ask me questions about their business. It's like, that's my time. I show up every week. Yeah. They're able to do this. So I found the right niche, but you have to go out and provide value first, because as you guys know, in this town, here's the problem I was running into. All these great marketers, they would read a book, and then they would write a book about the book they just read. They were offering deals to get people publishing deals, and they've never gotten anyone a publishing deal in there. Matter of fact, they didn't even know what a publishing deal was. They just know that was that cool phrase that was being tossed around when people would say, I think I'm going to go to Nashville and get a publishing deal first. I'm like, great, where are they handing those out at? What corner are they selling those? They're not. So I just started without being that guy. I became that guy to call BS on a lot of what I saw was going on.
I've been involved in situations where, like, I've been paid to co-write with someone.
Congrats, because they got it. It always
felt weird to me.
Why?
I'll tell you why.
That's an interesting point.
And I get that. This is one of those conversations where it's like, if I talk to someone, over a cigar, I would be like, yeah, I should totally charge. My only issue with all of this,
right?
And I've talked to you. We met at Franklin Cigar. And I asked you at Franklin Cigar, I said, what do you promise these people? What are you delivering? What are you selling? Because this transaction, people think they're buying something. They're buying access. They're buying information.
Sure.
People with the first company that asked me to do it, they were selling it. If you write with a hit songwriter, you're going to create a hit song.
It's not true.
Right. They were selling the dream. They were selling like, hey, this is the way you become a hit songwriter. Cheat, cut the line, write with these hit songwriters, and then you're going to go have hits.
Well, here's the thing.
So
you're going to learn what a hit is. A hit, what's a hit? Every song that's being released every day, someone in that building thinks is a hit.
Yeah.
A hit is subjective, but what they're learning is structure. What they're learning is your 20 years of being told no, you knowing what is getting rejected. So I look at it, and I say this humbly and respectfully for anyone that's listening. You're going to these universities and you're buying a songwriting degree being taught by people that haven't had a hit, either ever or in the last 20 years. The only people that they're bringing in to talk about current hit songwriters are you guys. So they're getting paid to introduce them to you. Why shouldn't you be paid because you're teaching?
I finally came to a peace with it whenever I spoke with them. They changed some of the language on their website, and the reality was just like, if it's billed as an experience,
that's what it is. Yes.
Like Space Camp or go golf with Michael Jordan, then it's about that experience. And yes, that song can go on and be a hit, but we all know that we write thousands of songs for every song that becomes a hit, so it's not likely. So just so people know what it is they're buying. So many people, I could see them bringing their daughter to you, and even though you tell them, and this is what you told me at the cigar place, that you don't sell the dream.
No.
You sell the education. You sell the connections. You sell the
I don't
program.
even sell the connections, because the thing is what I do is I prepare you for whatever opportunity may come your way. When you walk into a record label, you two know this, they're going to get excited about the music first. So the first thing I tell these people, we've got to get the music right. Once a label gets excited about a song, they're going to start asking questions. And if you can't answer those questions, you just missed a great opportunity. They're going to ask, do they have any other songs that we can listen to? You know how many people are out there trying to get a record deal and they've only written one song, or they have one song? A lot of them. So I said, we need to get you a catalog of quality music. Then they're going to ask, what's their online engagement like? They're not going to ask what their numbers are anymore, because those can be bought. Subscribers can be bought, plays can be bought. They're going to ask what their online engagement is. They're going to ask, how many shows are they currently playing? How much merch are they currently selling? Right now, the record companies are not in a position to start businesses. They're looking to invest in small businesses that are already working. Yeah. So what I say is, you need to become a small business worth investing in. They're looking for reasons to say no because it's so crowded. So let's not give them any. And a lot of people want their opportunity before they're ready. And I'm like, no, it's like they draft a kid out of high school who's the best baseball player in the world. They don't put him in the major leagues the next day. There's work that has to be done to get you prepared for that. Why does everyone think the music business is different? That we could just throw you at the highest level to compete, and you've never played a show before. You've never gone out and you haven't written 10 songs, or you haven't gone out and performed 100 times in a year. It's like, so that's what my mantra was, and that's what I do with my podcast and my YouTube channel and everything was, let me tell you why it isn't working for you right now, and let me show you the things that will give you a better chance and an opportunity. Unless I'm the person signing you to a record deal, I cannot promise anyone a record deal. I can't promise anyone a publishing deal. What I can promise is to show up, answer your questions, guide you to the best of my ability, keep you from putting yourself in a position that could ultimately end up ruining your career before it even starts, and making sure that when the opportunity is right, then I'm going to give you that opportunity, because I want some of the credit. I said, when you're ready for a deal, I'll put you on my back and walk you in, because as long as people keep having babies that want to be famous, I never run out of a potential audience. But I always tell people, you're going to come to me and maybe listen to me because of Taylor and all the other people that I've been involved with. The question you should be asking is, what are you doing for artists like me to help them grow their business? That's the right question. Not, can I be the next Taylor Swift? The answer is no, we already have one. You got to be the first you. So that's where I'm kind of like sushi. I'm an acquired taste. I call BS. somebody said one time, they said, Rick's the kind of guy that will kick you in the groin and hug you at the same time. It's like there's a reality to this. The cool part is this. There's the music industry and there's the music business. Two completely different things. The industry has its own set of rules. They're chasing radio, and right now they're hurting because all their money was being made on touring, and that's not happening right now. The music business means you can wake up in the morning, you can write it, create it, record it, put it out to the consumer, and collect income on it, all without having to ask anyone for permission. The industry is all about permission. The business is all about hustle.
That's interesting.
That's the difference to me.
Huh. So when you're looking around town, I think Mike and I both, I think where everyone has concern is that there's a group of people making money off people trying to make it. And my vote has always been, hey, what are you selling? As long as you're selling them true and honest in what you're selling them, then you've done your job.
But here's what you need to understand. To that person who's selling it, it might be true to them. It's up to the consumer to do the research.
Yeah.
If you think that there's some magic person that's going to make you famous, that's your fault because you have a false belief. I never fault the person who's making the offer.
But what the end of that question, where it turned into a question, would be, what does it look like in Nashville? If you are going online, trying to find or coming to town, what sharks to actual legitimate businesses for developing, what's that look like? Are you more probable to find yourself in a bad situation or a good one?
Well, it depends on what you are looking for. If you're looking for a shortcut, if you're looking for the secret to success, you're going to get screwed. That's just what's going to happen. There's a company right now, and I won't mention their name, and they have a form letter that goes out. They find my clients because I teach them how to build these cool online presences. So they're always knocking on those doors. So they'll reach out to me. They'll go, hey, Rick, I was approached by an artist development company. I'm like, okay, let me guess. And I say the name. They're like, oh, how did you know? I said, because they send the same form letter to all of my different clients. When you have to tell people that you're a reputable label in Nashville and you've been on Music Row since 2009, I don't see Sony saying that. I don't see any of the reputable labels. Those are words you have to look for. When their artist development plan is to record an expensive record and take it to radio, they do not know the current layout of the music business. You need to watch out for those people. When they tell you that they can guarantee you radio airplay, you need to watch out for those people. When people guarantee you Spotify plays now, you need to watch out for those people. That's the big scam that's going on right now. We will get you 1,000 real followers for X amount of dollars. Okay, how's that work? But people see that. They want those fake numbers.
They want to believe it.
They actually want to believe it. If someone says, we're going to teach you how to write hit songs, all I say is, look, go check to see when the last time was that they had a hit. Go listen to anything they've currently produced. And if you don't hear a track underneath it somewhere, they're not writing songs that are working on the radio today, no matter what genre that you're in. So I'm just like, do your research. Go look at the clients that they're currently working with. See if that's how you want your website to look. See if that's how you want your social media engagement to work. I spend a lot of time just asking questions.
So whenever you're, obviously you say, okay, this is what I believe, my intentions are good and my integrity is good. I'm selling a valid product. How many folks in town, if they come, is it littered with is it dominated by people that are charlatans, or is it 50-50? If you have to put a number on it.
I don't know that I could put a number on it, because here's the thing.
Do you know of other people other than you that are doing it for the right reasons?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing it for the right reasons, but you got to remember, your responsibility is to give your client what they want. And if this person is adamant about spending $10,000 on a record because they want to say that Joe West produced it, then let him spend the $10,000. That's what the client wants. But I also don't want to tell people how to run their businesses, because that's to them. Right. As long as I think the expectations are real, all of this is an experience. What happens, in my opinion, sometimes, it's like, I'll use Berkeley as an example. So they have these certificate courses. This certificate course, for $1,500, they're going to teach you the strategies and the tools that are being used. They're not going to show you how to use them. Why? Because they don't know how to use them. That's not the business that they're in. So you can go to YouTube and get strategy. So when you start buying tactics, you need to make sure that the people that are selling you those tactics are using those tactics, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of, we can hear what all the cool cliche words are. Really good marketers can write a good sales letter and all this stuff. It's like, no, it's like when I do my free training, it's called Social Media for Music. I run through the strategies that I'm teaching, and people can go and apply those strategies. Now, it's like test driving a car. If you test drove the car and you like it, I'll sell you the tactics. That's where we go deeper. To me, that's no different. So I give 45 minutes of quality. You can go spend 1,000 hours on YouTube if you want, or I put together a course where it's all right here. Boom, boom, boom. It's $97. I have zero problems all day long offering that because it took me 15 hours to build. I put a lot of time and a lot of energy in it, but I will never say that anyone else's business model is wrong. It's up to the consumer to make the right decision for them. If they're looking for shortcuts, if they're not willing to go on Google and search, shame on them. Not shame on the person who was offering it, because to them, one person, that may be what they want.
Well, it's shame on people need. We always talk about this. It's like there's such a level of desperation with artists.
There is.
So they are blinded. Literally, they have one destination, and anything that happens along the way, their belief in that end destination is so strong that they don't really critically make a lot of good decisions along the way.
Right.
That's how they get into horrible deals, and every Behind the Music, back when Behind the Music was on, every Behind the Music, plot. But at the end of the day, it's like there's still. I get what you're saying, and I believe it. But for me, if my son wanted to go do this,
yes,
and I was coming to a town like Nashville, there's the debt of, if you're running a business, you need to run it ethically. And if you're selling the dream, it isn't the consumer's fault. It's their fault. You cannot sell something you don't have access to.
But in a lot of these folks' minds, and I know them personally, and I've had conversations with them, they still believe that the relationships that they had at radio 10 years ago will still work. They still think that they can get songs played. They still think it's about the song. And if you get the song right, you can go and that's their belief. So their beliefs aren't wrong. They're just living in an old model. Well, we have that in every business.
I've got issues. In Nashville, we have what are called song pluggers. People, if you have songs, you pay them a monthly stipend if you don't have a publishing deal. And they'll go out and they'll pitch. And these are a lot of people that used to work at big publishers. So they're just as in. Some of them are just as in as people at publishing companies. So you build a monthly relationship. You'd say, and they can be expensive, between $500 and $1,000. So if you're paying someone $800 a month and they're pitching your song and they take your catalog to pitch that catalog and they know that they can't do anything with that catalog and it's just a money grab, that bugs me.
Well, it should bug them. Because
should bug who?
The person who's doing it.
Right. It should bug them.
That's ultimately what this is about.
It's because they know in their heart of hearts they're not going to get holds, they're not going to get cuts, they're not going to generate income from the copyrights. Pardon me?
They're not even going to pitch it.
They're not even going to pitch it.
And that's what I feel about people saying, let's start at secondary radio. Secondary radio, it can be manipulated. Why? Because the eye in the sky I talked about is not there. So I had a kid recently came to me and he said, hey, they're asking me to renew with them. And this is a guy who's been in this business for a long time. He's in his 70s. And all of a sudden he was showing, these little small towns where this kid was getting 90 plays in a week. I said, you're not getting 90 plays in a week. I said, I can guarantee you that. He goes, what? I said, call the radio station and thank them for playing your song. And when they say, who is this again? If they're playing your song 90 times, they're going to know your name. Most of the time that doesn't happen. Those are buddies helping buddies, and that's a scam. That's something that's running right now.
Yeah.
But for legal reasons, I won't say the name of the company.
I get it.
But
I think it comes down to if you can legitimately have a bad philosophy or approach to how to be successful in the music business. As long as you believe that it's valid and you think you're going to win and your clients are going to benefit from it, I'm down all day long. It could be a
disagree with that.
Bad strategy. You believe in your strategy, you know what it is you're selling, you sell it, and it's like there is value there. So I'm down with that. I feel like Nashville is filled with people luring people in out of the Bluebird into another songwriting course.
They are, but
that have not had hits, in selling them hundreds of dollars worth of programs that they end up knowing. They don't even know because they haven't had hits themselves, but knowing that this money is purely going to pay their rent for the month,
Sure.
and it's not going to return to
they're
this
feeding
person.
off of other people's dreams.
Yeah, that's what people
between
hate
them and
about
God.
that. That's what
not between them and Rick, or that's
and
between
just
them
going
and
back,
somebody
like,
else. Yeah,
I get it. I'm with you with what you said before, which is like, hey, they know it's consumer beware, buyer beware, but the seller needs to have a compass that they're at least. They're in their heart of hearts, they know they're trying to do something that will succeed.
Right.
These people are buying a means. You can't sell them the means to the end, and you tell them that.
Right.
That's ethical. But you're giving them all the tools they need to accomplish that.
right.
See, I what you're doing sounds cool to me. It's like you're selling information, you're selling education, you know. But to Joe's point, you know, we've encountered a lot of people that, you know, are selling the dream. And the dream
Selling
is
the dream.
this dream is a scary thing to sell to people.
It is. And you guys are in a very unique situation, because I firmly believe that if you want to learn how to write songs, work with a writer. Spend time with a writer.
I had a situation in New York City with a guy that was a collaborator of mine. He was a really good songwriter. And he started to get into the thing of writing with, you know, very wealthy,
Sure.
you know, wealthy kids in New York and New Jersey kind of thing. And I remember asking him, because I remember thinking it felt really wrong, because we're conditioned also as songwriters. No one's going to pay us to do. So that's a whole other psychology going on, you know.
Yeah, that's between you and your therapist.
Exactly, right. But I remember asking him, I said, you know, do you feel weird because some of these, they just weren't good, you know? He said, no. He said, you know, I've been writing songs for 30 years. And why shouldn't I be paid for my experience?
Yes.
That's what they're coming to me. They're
Correct.
I'm teaching them songwriting effectively.
You'd pay a plumber.
And I never looked at it like that, and I was like, I understood the point.
But I would blame him if he was writing with them under the context that they were now going to become hit songwriters.
Yeah, and I don't know that he was doing that or not.
So it's a simple distinction.
Yes.
Right? You have to want the best for people. If you're going to be a charlatan, why not just go do something really nefarious and make a lot of money?
Right.
Why make pennies from people that don't have any money?
And this goes across anything entertainment. I mean, people just have dreams.
Same
their
for
whole-
actors
Yeah,
and models
100%.
and
Yeah,
you
100%.
you heard the mall calls where all the
100%.
kids would come and the casting
Right.
directors.
Yeah,
This
where
has
they're
been going
selling
on.
headshots
Yeah,
and-
this has been going on for a long time, and it's the parents' responsibility. And I tell the parents this. I have a program called Music Business for Parents, where I'm educating them and teaching them, because they are the first record company, they are the first publishing company, they are the first booking agent,
That's
the
a
first roadie. They're everything.
That's brilliant. People
good point.
need somebody on their behalf, their
Correct.
parents. They need someone fighting for the right.
Well,
And there's also instances where someone will call me and they'll say, hey, I'm signing a contract. They're going to cut this song. They want to use my master. I'm blah, blah, blah. They're asking for this. And it's like, I don't think I should sign that. I'm like, that's totally normal.
right.
You should get 3/4 rate. You should give up 10% of the copyright for this reason.
Right.
Totally normal. And they don't know either way, you know? So every little thing feels like they're getting ripped off. So they need somebody like their parents to know, or
Right.
you, or somebody that has their best interest in mind. Somebody that will say, I've told clients, hey, we want to spend $5,000 on a side and have you cut these 3 songs for $15,000. And first of all, if they're young girls, I do a Skype call with them and their parents. And this one in particular, they're out in the West Coast or in the mountain region. And I said, you guys should be, rather than record $15,000 worth of 3 songs, you should be recording 100 songs at $150. That's what you should be doing. You need to get up and have at-bats and learn what's working and what's not working and find people that you're working with. And maybe your track guy should be cutting these things, not me.
Right.
And maybe there's a time where our lives coalesce back together. They need somebody that cares enough, like, not to do the smash and grab, not for me to just say, I'm going to grab that sack of money there. I'm going to spend a weekend and make $15,000, right? They need people that have that in their hearts. There's a lot of people in town that don't have it. There's a lot in all of these creative arts. In that desperation, I put the onus more on the provider, because there is a desperation that comes with artists where they literally feel like they're drowning. And any hand to grab on is a hand that they'll grab onto. And if that person, it's all that much sweeter when they say, I can get you secondary radio. I can do this. I can do that. I can introduce you to the president. I can get you a record deal.
See, people ask those questions, and then I ask them questions back. I'm like, so I'll say to them, if you've got a budget, here's what you either need to do. One, you need to go on YouTube and learn how to record your own guitar vocals so you can build an audience off of that. You then need to go into the studio, find someone who's ready. Right now, you can get really good quality music for $1,500.
Yeah.
You can get songs that are done, then use the rest for marketing and promotion and things like that. But what I tell them is this: if you're looking to be famous, I'm the wrong guy for you. If you're looking for what work needs to be done in order to build a business, then I'm your guy.
That's cool.
And I tell them that straight up. Whenever they come to one of my presentations, I said, here's what's going to happen. We're going to spend about an hour today together. I'm going to tell you and share with you things that you can use right now. And then at the end, I'm going to create an opportunity. If you feel you want to go deeper with me, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Take what I teach you, go use something, go do something, and tag me on Instagram and let me know that it's working for you. I don't go in, I don't sell anything. I create opportunities for the right people. And that's what it is, because not everything that I do, it's like I tell people, they're like, I've got to get a song on radio. I'm like, great, when's the last time you listened to radio?
Right.
And they pause. Or the big one, I need to hire a PR firm. That gets me more than some of these people trying to teach people how to be songwriters. It's like, you're going to charge somebody $2,500 to send out press. What is it that makes you press worthy?
Right.
What is it that, no, don't do that. You can go target an audience with Instagram and Facebook ads, get right in front of the right person. So we did an event about a year and a half ago, and I had a publisher and a A&R person from 2 major labels. And what we did is I paid them for their time. So people paid to, I said, we're going to teach you what it's like to do a listening session. So they got to sit down, they got to perform their song, they got handwritten critique and feedback from these folks. There was, you're not going to be able to go on social and say that you just pitched your music to these 2 labels, because that's not what you're doing. You are getting feedback from professionals that you would not, and what we're paying them for is their time. Not because now they're your new best friend, not because of anything, and we made it affordable for everyone. It was a win-win. I didn't take a dime. I paid each person their $500 for the hour. We had room for 10 spots. It was $100 a spot. And what I asked was, I get to record the sessions and use it in my courses to teach other people who pay for my program. Right. So it was a win-win for everyone involved. But what it also did was put them on the radar of this publisher and of this A&R person, because that's an opportunity they would not normally get. So we made sure that we had all the right people. There have been times when I've called songwriters and I said, listen, what's a couple hours of your time worth? I have a new songwriter and I want them to be able to sit down and learn from you. Because here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. You can't go out and give a hook to 20 people and say, okay, whoever gets famous first gets to keep it. Once you deliver something, you've just given that to them. You can't go into that next room with them. You're not getting paid the way you used to get paid. There are less songs on the charts right now. It used to be, you get a number one, heck, you get an album cut on George Strait 15, 20 years ago. That's all everybody wanted, was a George Strait cut.
You're making 40, 50 grand.
Correct, which is a decent living for some people, getting to do what you love. Those days have changed. So what does the songwriter need to do, in my opinion? These camps, I think, are great, where you're teaching. You're not promising them you're going to write hit songs with them. You're going to teach them. Today, we need to understand where the bridge, this is the structure. Right. These are all the things that all the hit songs that are on the radio, they all have a structure. Well, if you're writing every single day in the best place in the world to write music, you can fast track the learning process of the right person. Somebody who thinks, well, I'm just going to sit in the room and give Joe a couple ideas and he's going to write me the song, and then I'm going to be able, to go get a publishing deal because I wrote with Joe or Mike, or I'm going to be able to get on radio because... No, pop radio used to care who the DJ, who the mixer. I mean, remember the days when, unless Justin Niebank mixed it, it didn't get on. He knew, he has the magic ears. He understood something. So everybody wanted Justin to work on it. And there was a time where Get in the room with Tony Brown, get in the room with Paul, get in the room with these guys. It could make a huge difference. Today, these kids, heck, our most recent Grammy record of the year was recorded in a bedroom at their parents' house. That wasn't $5,000 aside. That wasn't $10,000 aside, $12,000 aside. It was done right on a computer.
What do you recommend? Let's say, like, we obviously can't control. You can help steer people to get the right boxes checked, get the right muscles flexed and toned up to be attractive to a record label. Let's say, do you have a mode that, hey, you don't want a record deal? You want to build your own audience? Is there anything in your course? Like, do you?
Oh, that's all I teach. That's what I teach.
So ideally, people become successful, and then people want to acquire successful
first they
things.
have to recognize, what does success mean to them. So I tell people, if you can make 50, 60 grand a year doing what you love, you're making more than most people doing what they hate. Sometimes you're making twice as much. It's not hard to go find, if you can't find 1,000 people in the world and give them the opportunity to spend $50 a year with you, then you don't even need to be in this business. Let it be a hobby at this point. The key first, get the music right. Then go find the right audience. The bigger problem, people just throw it out into the world and hope something sticks. I don't care how good your hamburger is. If you open up your stand in a town of vegetarians, you screwed yourself. Doesn't matter how good the burger is. So what I try to help people do is, let's go find a hungry audience and feed it. The relationship is where the money is made today. It's not in the music. The music gets them into the relationship. It's the relationship that you ultimately build. Like right now, we're doing a thing where I've got an artist. He does once a month. It's only 100 tickets. It's $75. And with that, it's a private online. I've been doing social distancing before we had a name for it. I've been having artists do online shows making $500, $1,000 a week with a virtual tip jar. So what he does is, we created this cool experience. So for $100, you get the video. We take the audio. You get a T-shirt with the set list on the back. The fans get to pick the set list. They get to pick the cover. And then he signs an autographed copy. It's about $22 for cost of goods. So he's making $80 per ticket. So without having to leave Nashville, without having to travel, without having to pay for players, without having to do anything, he's generating $8,000 a month.
Wait a minute, $75 a person.
Yeah.
Minus expenses, you're saying he's making 80.
No, it's 100. I was doing $100 ticket, so it's 55. So he's doing $5,500.
Right.
But he just did another one the night before where he made $4,300.
He'll make a T-shirt that has a set list of the show.
Yeah, with the date, and it's an
that's
experience.
part of the $100.
Yep.
Gotcha. Wow,
Yeah,
I think we need more of this. It's like everyone thinks that, like, oh, I want to graduate from high school, and then I want some A&R guy to show up at my show and whisk me away.
There are no shows
and start and do this
at
thing.
the taping of this.
What people really need is someone to teach them how to go out there and make shelter from a fallen tree, how to start a fire with wet matches, how to fish. And then if you build enough of an economy around yourself, you don't have to tell a soul. Your phone, even though you never gave your phone number out, will ring.
That's the irony of the whole thing, right? When you build it to the point that you don't need them is exactly when they want you.
Well, and right now I spend thousands of dollars a week on Facebook ads trying to get my message in front of the right people, but I can't help everyone. It's not hard for people to do their research, but what they do is they're typing in the wrong keywords. So if you type in famous, Rick Barker's not showing up. If you type in music business, I'm showing up. If you type in write with hit songwriters, the wrong people are showing up.
Right.
If you type in,
I never even thought of that.
So that's how it's happening, is that the consumer, that's why I said it's the fault of the consumer. The consumer's typing in the wrong words. They're looking for the wrong things. So when they search for that, it's like if you go type in music industry, music business, I pop up. Why? Because I spend money to make sure that I pop up. And then it's up to them at that point. Everything starts with me.
That's really interesting, and it probably is more difficult because it's an easier bait and hook to use these buzzwords like, hey, become a star, your big break.
That's it.
But you won't invest in those keywords because that's not the audience.
I'm attracting the wrong person because they're coming to me with unrealistic expectations.
That's super, I get that.
That I can't control. And I always joke, I said, hey, if you want to be famous, do a sex tape, throw it on YouTube, could go viral, get a fragrance, marry a rapper. You know, it's like there's ways to get famous, but there's a lot of people famous for the wrong reasons.
I love the idea that you could if your sole purpose was to raise tycoons that would go on and be able to support themselves, and we had a whole ecosystem worth of artists that were purely self-funded, self-sufficient, then you're going to find those people like the David Bowies of the world, right? The Bruce Springsteens. We're going to allow those true artists to start to pop up on the horizon.
Here's what happens, and this is the bigger problem, and I'm just going to say it. In Nashville, this is where we are. When a new person shows up to town, where do they usually end up first?
Like you talking about,
they
like
come to town.
Live performance?
NSAI?
No, just NSAI.
Or their
BMI,
ASCAP,
ASCAP, and then but BMI and ASCAP do from deals a long time ago is they just refer them over to NSAI. NSAI isn't known for building artists. That's not what they do, but that's where they get sent. There's no place to send them. So I went out and I met with all the heads of all the big organizations, and here's what happened. I said, have them go watch this free training. I'll be the frequently asked questions. I'll give well, if we do it for you, then we're going to have to do it for one of our other songwriting people, and there's some of them that are doing things that we don't like. So they stopped the ability for people to get proper education because it wasn't politically correct. So what has to happen is when people come to Nashville, they need to be told, you know what? Here's where you start. Go watch this video. Welcome to Nashville. Now what? Here's the organizations that you need to go meet with. Here's the places that do open mic nights. This is where you can get.
And all that stuff, as much as people think it may not be, all that stuff is super clear.
It's very.
Like I tell people when they call me, I'm saying, you should go visit with your PRO, with ASCAP BMI. You should go over to the NSA. Everybody says the same thing. They say, go to the Bluebird, go over to the
but
Commodore.
Do any of those organizations develop artists? They don't. So why are we sending someone? They're going to say, go get the song. So then what happens? It's very unstructured. It's like, first things first is you need to learn the business.
Yeah.
Period. It's like, I don't care that someone just gave you a Lamborghini if you've never driven a stick. Let's start them where they are. So that's where we as a community, I feel, need to be better serving them, because we're as much of the problem if we're not providing the solution. If we're just waiting for people to figure it out on their own. It's like, so now what do? I run Facebook ads and I target people who have interest in BMI, ASCAP, SOCAN, NSAI, Sound Exchange, CD Baby, and I pay to get my ads in front of them to be able to take them to learn something. It's like, if you go to my website, there's nowhere on my website you can give me money. Why? Because I feel I have to earn the right first. So you go watch this. If you want to learn how to build an audience, go do this. I have a training. It's called Are You Ready for a Manager? And I walk them through what a manager does. And then I explain to them how the reason that a manager will not take you on today is because here's how they get paid. Do you know how many people don't even know how a manager gets paid? They still think that a manager should work off the back end. There is no back end. They were banking on the front end that came with the $500,000 signing bonuses 20 years ago. That's why a manager would work for free. Now it's all splitting pennies. It's like the managers are like, no, you go do it. If you can't do it with all the tools that are readily available to you, that's the thing that people need to understand. You need to show that you can run your own business.
There's got to be something to manage
before someone's going to come in and manage your business.
Right. What are you managing? In other words, are you bringing me opportunity? Everybody thinks a manager gets them work.
No, they all think they get them gigs. I'm like, that's your booking agent.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea, because everyone's looking for, like, hey, it's such an interesting landscape, and you can have so many pitfalls and fall into the wrong thing, and you can lose $150,000 in this town really quick.
Yep.
Like within 6 months.
Yep.
It could be done.
Yep.
Right? So it's important to find the right people. I love that you have, the mentality that it's like, okay, I'm going to make you successful. And that's going to make you more attractive to other people.
It's interesting. When I left Taylor, one of the first jobs I got invited to go to have lunch with Joe Galani, used to be at Sony Music. Joe was the very first person who ever asked me, Rick, what are your goals? I said, Joe, that's an interesting question. I said, right now, my goal is this. If someone comes to Nashville, they say there's 5 people you need to meet that will steer you in the right direction. I said, I just want to be one of those 5. That's been my goal for a long time. It's like, if I You can't even imagine the number of oil dads who showed up with blank checks for me to make their daughter the next Taylor Swift. If anybody could have gone out and screwed the world, it could have been me. But that's not who I am as a person. But other people saw that as an opportunity, and I can't fault anyone for having their own moral compass. That's theirs.
I can fault.
Yeah, no, and that's okay. But it's like
I think you're being too kind.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter what Rick Barker thinks. It doesn't. If that person wants to do what they're going to do, they're going to continue to do it. I can't change anyone else. I can only change my reaction. So my reaction was, I'll outspend everyone to get my message in front of the right person. And in the end, I'll end up doing okay. So it challenged me. It's like when people come, now my clients know. That's what they pay for. They pay for the ability to get me on the phone and say, hey, what do you know about this person? What do you know about this person? So I can only do so much. So it's doing things like this where I'm able to go out and say, look, here's all these free resources. You want a free copy of my book? Grab it. You want to come watch a free training? Grab it. You want to learn what a manager does? Grab it. Go to my YouTube channel. I got over 200 and today I posted episode 207 on my podcast. I put tons of free content out into the world to earn the right to have a secondary conversation with someone. I don't go look for people that want to be famous. I don't go sit on panels and let people say, hey, and Taylor Swift's former manager's on our panel, and then we get asked the same stupid questions. You guys have been to those. Unless I can go teach for an hour or an hour and a half, I don't go. And that's the reputation I have. It's like, I want to provide value and earn the right to move to that next step in the relationship. So that's why I do what it is that I do.
Well, we're glad you do it. What's your website?
rickbarker.com, BARKER.
Okay.
Make it real easy. Follow me on socials at Rick
No
Barker
tildes
Music.
or hyphens involved.
No. It's funny when you go try to buy your name, someone puts a value on it. So they wanted like $5,000. And I'm like, look, there's only two other Rick Barkers. My dad, who was a stuntman, he's retired, and some architect in Australia. I'll give you $300 for it. They're like, okay, we'll take it. That was a scam, you know? But I knew how to handle it.
Yeah. Well, if you need somebody who knows how to handle the music business, Rick's, I love your ideology. For me, dabbling in Google ads and Facebook marketing, when you were talking about the keywords, and people may not realize this, but it's like, that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I might be putting some of the wrong keywords in. I need to grow an organic audience that will be served by my content.
The word organic is gone.
Well, you know what?
But I know what you're talking about.
An authentic audience.
Well, it's like this. It's like I've helped a lot of songwriters create products because I feel it's valuable. Martin Sutton, you know, I love what Seth Mosley is doing at Full Circle. That is a school. They're teaching people how to write songs. They're teaching people the structure of songs. He's got interviews with, oh my gosh, everyone in all different formats. But what they've done is they've taken it, put it into one location. So yeah, there are some really good people out there. Graham Cochran at Recording Revolution will teach you how to record your songs from scratch. Free YouTube channels. Ill Factor at Beat Academy will teach you how to make beats. Hit Songs Deconstructed. Dave Penn will sit there and say, we've done the work to show you what every top 100 Billboard song has in common and what the beats per minute. It's all this great education and tools that are out there. But if you don't want to do the work, stay away from this business because it's a business. You can't be in business without working. I always tell people, when opportunity knocks, who usually answers is hard work.
Wow.
There are no shortcuts. You've got to be able, and there's a lot of great tools and resources. If you want to learn this business, shadow you. You know, have somebody call and say, hey, what would it cost for a couple hours of your time so that I can ask you questions? That's how businesses work. You go to the experts to shortcut the learning curve. Right. Not the success, it's the learning curve.
Right.
And that's where I think people make the mistake. Somebody said something to me the other day. They're like, well, you know, I was looking in your course and I only saw that the Instagram section is like 15 minutes long. What can you teach me? And I said, no, you can go spend 100 hours that I did, or you can get my condensed version for 15 minutes. So the girl that's shooting my videos. She works for me. I said, Hannah, let me ask you a question. If same price, you could get your master's degree from Belmont in 1 year or 4 years, what are you going to pick? She goes, 1 year. I said, okay, then why does everyone come to me wanting to know why things aren't long enough? You should be wanting to learn the most that you can in the shortest amount of time possible. And if I can go to the guy who does it every single day and say, let me give you $500 to shadow you for the day, you're not going to teach me all the stuff that didn't work. You're going to only show me the stuff that works. That is value. And that's what people should be investing in. So when I'm going to sit down with a songwriter who, let's say I'm a kid and I've never been in a co-write before, who better to come learn from than the Nashville songwriters? We're a whole world of co-writes to say, here's what you need to do. This is what you show up with. These are the questions you learn to ask. This is what a split sheet is. This is why it's important to go ahead and document all this stuff, because when you upload it to ASCAP and BMI, they're going to ask you these questions. If you ever get the opportunity to meet with a publisher, they're going to look for all this stuff when you present them with your Serie A. Oh, here's what, when you're able to educate them on what not to do, that has value and you should be paid for that.
Yeah.
If you're going to say, everybody, let's get together this weekend and you're all going to leave with a hit song.
So who are
That's the BS.
Who your customers are? Artists?
Yeah.
Are they
I
songwriters?
have in my world,
Yeah.
I have songwriters, producers, managers, because they know I stay up to date on what's happening in the digital world. They love to be able to bounce ideas off of me. Producers will come to me saying, hey, I need to go out and find artists. How should I use social media to go find artists? I tell them what to look for when you're going to invest your time in an artist. Go see if the artist is doing this. So yeah, I have a lot of different people in my world. I still, have, I went and sat with Seth's whole crew and talked to them over at Full Circle. This is what I do. It's like I sit down and I teach people how to ask the right questions and kind of what it is that they need to look for. So every week I do my management session for my clients. A lot of times we're just looking at Facebook ads. I'm taking a look at their website, making sure their messaging's on point. We're helping them plan tours. A lot of stuff right now. We're teaching them how to write proper emails to the independent curators of these playlists. Teach them how to go out and build relationships. Teach them a lot of different things. I just don't focus on any of the creative. That's not my space.
Well, that's great. There's plenty of people doing that.
Yes, and that's where I refer them to.
Yeah.
I tell them, you create it, I'll teach you how to get rid of it.
You can tell you have this laser beam focus.
It took a while, but people will come to me and they're like I'll get, probably while we're sitting here, I can open up, I'll have 20, 30 DMs on Instagram, people wanting me to hear their song and tell me what I think about it. And I'm like, unless your audience is a white dude who's 53 that loves hip hop, I'm probably the wrong guy listening to your music. I said, but let me ask you this question. What are you hoping I say? So I always turn it back on them. Well, I'm hoping you say that you like it. I said, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the work that needs to be done. Are you in a position to put in the work? So I'm going to send you first to free resources. And if you're not willing to take the time to learn from me for free, we're the wrong person for each other anyway. So that's how I kind of flip it back on them. I answer questions with questions. And then when they say, I just want to know if I have the potential. I said, one song isn't going to tell me if you have potential. I'm going to go look at your work ethic.
We've talked about this before of, sometimes setting a price for somebody on, let's say, producing a track or something, setting a price that is maybe a little above normal, but it's at a price that if you don't have the hustle to come up with that money, you don't have the hustle for this business.
You're in the inventory business at that point.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like this business is so difficult and it requires such discipline, such hustle. That part of it is, I just remember as a band, when I had a band, like we worked so hard to go into the studio, we would do whatever it took, and we played 1 million gigs, and it's like that, and that's what it takes. The hustle's got to be there,
Well, Joe said something earlier when he said, why not take 100 songs at $150 each? Because the world we live in today is the Netflix society. They want to consume. So if you're a business and you say, okay, I'm going to get 3 sides, $5,000 a side, $15,000. You know how many people don't even have a marketing budget past that. You know, the Kickstarter campaigns that were just to get the songs recorded.
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you're never going to be able to recoup your investment. So I think the smart thing right now, for those listening that want to do it the right way, when someone comes to you and says, I have a budget of $10,000, let's sit down and take a look at that budget. You know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do 5 songs and we'll do some cool percussion. I can do a lot of it myself on the computer. We'll add a couple live instruments. We don't have to bring people in and pay them double master so they show up on time. That's the other big thing that's going on right now is, oh no, if you want the good guys, you got to pay them double master so that they'll come in.
Is that right?
And I'm like, really? It's like you don't have an outlet. You don't have an audience. Don't come in and spend on expensive recordings because you will at some point. Let me just say this right. If you want to go compete with Drake and everyone else, you're going to have to at some point, but you don't need that to build the audience. You need the audience to justify the $40,000 record.
Yeah.
So let's build what matters first. You could build an audience off of guitar vocals, off of piano vocals, off of leasing a beat, and build it, but build the audience first, find out what they want. Then when you go in the studio, they're going to help you pay for it because they want to be a part of the project. They want to know, they know you're pregnant. Now the baby came. Now we want to see what the baby looks like grown up. It's like instead of just most of you are just showing up with your kids saying, like my child. No, you have the ability today to grow along with it.
You've never asked your audience what they wanted.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like, what's the end goal? That's what you should ask them. What's the end goal?
1 in a million chance they're going to connect with it.
I want to try to, you know, if someone says, well, Joe, I'm looking to go get a record deal. Like, okay, so these songs can get you into the door, but what's going to keep you in the door are these things. So let's make sure that we have everything in place so you can become on the education piece as well for the producers out there, because you guys have to keep working. You have to get a little bit more, I think, on the front end because there are no back ends anymore. But you could create packages for your people. It's like, here's what you're going to get. For this amount of money, you're going to get 5 acoustic tracks that you're going to start going to build your audience. Then we're going to have this. Here's the education piece. I'll introduce you to my buddy Rick Barker. He's got this great social media program to show you how to go build this off. You know, it's like you guys could start creating your own packages that kind of move them through this level. By doing that, you'll have more people beating down your door right now because not a lot of people can spend the $5,000 and $6,000. But I had a studio one time. I said, you're empty. He goes, yeah, every day about 2:00 it ends out. I said, why don't you go on Twitter? And why don't you say, hey, for the next 2 hours, if anybody needs a studio for $50 an hour, you'll get an engineer. We'll record as many guitar vocals as you can if you play your own song. And all of a sudden, he started getting people into his studio, and they were the ones that came back to do the full recordings.
I know.
You just make money when it's in a dead space, but you get people through the door.
Yeah, this is a phenomenon. It's like do the work you don't want to do, and all of a sudden you're the only destination when there's work.
That's what they want. They already have built that relationship.
Well, I think that whenever you look at what you're talking about, I love that it's a ton of work. I would say almost 100% of the people that are looking to be successful, they look and they say, hey, I want to be Drake, or I want to be Taylor Swift. And it's like they just want to show up there. They don't realize the 10 years that it takes.
No, they see
the
tip of the iceberg. They don't see everything below.
But I do think that they can be compelled through like logic to say, hey, there is work there.
Yes.
And if you're willing to do that work, maybe there's 30%, 40% that will never be willing.
Well, the difference between, and you guys have worked with them, what's the difference between a superstar and a really good artist? It's usually their business acumen and their work ethic.
Work ethic.
Work ethic. Yeah, for sure.
It really is work ethic, hands down.
Yeah, but make sure you're doing the right work.
So let's say if 100%, let's say almost 100% comes in wanting to be a star, because they all do. Probably you could convince 60% of them to do the hard work.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
Right.
And those 60 originally wanted to just be a star. You know, because we all did. We were kids when we.
Everybody. I don't want to be the dream killer. Yeah, we don't want to be the dream killer.
I think you're being generous with the 60%.
Well, maybe you're right. But I think that what I will tell you is that it's the greatest joy in my life were the hard years.
Sure. But you're unique.
Well,
because
no,
a lot of people want it easy.
Once people that do have the success, and I never didn't want to work for it either. But I will tell you, looking back at the story of it, like my sweetest memories are those years that were just incredibly tough. When things weren't working and I was learning how to make them work. You know, me and my buddy Dave Panish, we wrote for 20 years together before we were able to get to a point where time and space made sense and our writing, what we were writing was perfect, and it exploded. But like the best memories of that was back whenever we were eating ramen noodles and he was painting his car with a spray can, you know? So the work is tough, but you'll find that the work, there's a real reward in the work. It's a lot of fun.
There is, and that's what I'm trying to teach my kids.
I love that you're selling that. I love that you're not selling the dream. I love that there's accountability. That's like, hey, I'm teaching a man to fish today rather than giving him a fish. So if you're interested in that, check out rickbarker.com. Couldn't be simpler. No silent Q's, no hyphens, no tildes.
That's it. Nothing.
So rickbarker.com. We want to thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Rick.
insight. And I might want to talk to you about, marketing the podcast and maybe getting involved creatively with you as well. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. Fascinating, great conversation.
Thank you very much.
And I want to thank Zach West. He's been he produced the show today. He's doing all the video cuts and all the audio over there, my son. Thank you, buddy.
Great job, Zach.
You get fed tonight. Yeah,
he said
you
no
get to
problem.
eat.
His mic was turned off.
I keep it off because it was crackling.
He said he kept it off because it was crackling. You need to stop talking. I can't keep repeating everything you said.
Sure you can.
Great job. Great job today, buddy. So that's it. Thank you all for attending or tuning into the West Barn. We'll see you next time from the West Barn.